As I've listened to the stories of thousands of women of all ages, in all kinds of stages, through the years, I've kept their stories locked in the vault of my heart. I feel as if they've been walking around with me all through these years. They've bothered me. They've prodded me. And sometimes kept me up at night. Ultimately, they've increased my passion to reframe and reimagine the powerful positions of mother and matriarch within the family system. I'm a problem solver, so I set out to find a way to perhaps change the trajectory of this silent and sad scenario about a dynamic yet untapped source of potential and purpose sitting in our homes and churches. It is time to come to the table, Heartlifters, and unleash the power of maternal presence into the world. Welcome to Mothering for the Ages, our 2025 theme here on today's Heartlift. I'm Janelle. I am your guide here on this heartlifting journey. I invite you to grab a pen, a journal, and a cup of something really delicious. May today's conversation give you clarity, courage, and a revived sense of camaraderie. You see, you're not on this journey alone. We are unified as Heartlifters and committed to bringing change into the world, one heart at a time. Well, welcome. Oh my goodness, Heartlifters. As you know, I've had a recent little atrial fibrillation going on with my heart, so I've got my watch on because my heart is so excited about this time with Anna Christine Seipel.
Yes.
And we're going to call you AC today. This new book that you have written, The Sacred Art of Slowing Down, find relief, and that word relief is what really got me, from rushed living, soothe your soul, and restore wholeness within. May God make this happen in my life and in all the lives of those who are listening. Heartlifters, you know, we need this. We need this word. Yes, it's a book, but we need these words. I know that you do, because I know so many of you, that relief from rushed living is on a cellular level. It's truly something that we feel, but don't understand the extremity to, is that the right word? Extremity, extremes to which we feel. So welcome, AC. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You are living in one of the most beautiful places on the planet, St. Andrews, Scotland. It is the golfer's paradise, and my husband got to golf on the old course, won the lottery 2 days before we left in 2005. What an incredible place. And you're studying at the University of St. Andrews. Why are you there? I just am so curious how God, I know the story, but my listeners do not yet, because they probably don't have your book yet, or have not been on your beautiful Substack, All Parts Sacred. Wow. How did you end up in that place and space?
This place, it is one of the most beautiful places. It truly is. And the short answer is I took what felt like a risky, vulnerable step to apply to a program that I had no idea if it would work out for me to get accepted. I had no idea if it would work out for us to, move our lives here. And there's a whole backstory of my husband and I had originally planned to come here back in 2018. We had visited together, both looking at PhD programs. And something I talk about in my book is that he had a traumatic brain injury, and that was a week after we got home from that trip. And so it seemed as though the door was just completely closed on us coming here. And then, COVID happened, and I kind of let that dream of doing a PhD, in a lot of ways, it was one of the things that died with our lives changing so drastically. And when I picked the idea back up um, about 2 years ago. Yeah, it was almost exactly 2 years ago that it just kept,
Wow.
it came kind of out of nowhere. It was not
Okay.
a slow build of like, oh, maybe I'll think about that. It honestly just kind of came back up. And so I was toying with the idea, playing with it, looking at programs that would do a distance. And I was like, maybe I'll go, once or twice a year. But,
Yeah.
we'll stay in Knoxville. We won't change our lives. And
Hmm.
I had a friend, a very sweet friend, who just stared me down and said, I know that's not what you want. Why are
Ooh,
you not applying for the programs there?
I love her. A girl, female.
Yeah.
I love her
Yeah.
already. What is her name? Let's shout her out.
Her name is Mary, and
Mary.
she knows that she is the pinkest of friends. That she
Mm,
and she knew that saying that to me meant the possibility of me leaving the continent, right?
that's right.
But she knew that was my longing, my desire, and so
I have
the next
chills.
day,
Bravo. To
yeah,
have, we want friends, don't we, in our lives like that.
yep,
I'm
yep,
so thankful for Mary
yeah,
because she helped you not settle. Okay.
yeah,
All righty.
truly. Truly. So I asked my husband, I said, what would you think of, because, the plan had always been we would go together
Yeah.
for both of us to do PhDs. So I said, are you
Wow.
okay with going just for me? That so spoke to something for this little part of me inside that was just like, would we really move our lives just for me?
Ooh,
It felt like, oh, could I really ask him to do that? Could we really
sure.
do this? And he, and, and I think I knew the answer already, but he just said, of course.
First, before we proceed, I just want Heartlifters to know that I told AC before we started, I have like 1,000 million questions and notes, and that's not possible. So I'm going to, you have to read the book to get the backstory on Elijah because I want to proceed and utilize this
Mhm.
time with you, AC, efficiently, which is
Yeah.
hard for me. My heart lifters know. And I am on a mandate to be calm. So,
Okay.
secondary to that, I have to be calm. So,
Yeah.
I am really working diligently at the sacred art of slowing down my heart. Probably my vagal nervous system, as we're going to talk about.
Mhm. Mhm.
How is Elijah doing? And was he well enough to make this move? Obviously, yes, but how's he doing?
Yeah. Yeah. So he's doing a lot better. And,
Okay.
um, to even consider making this move, that had to be,
Medically.
yeah. 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 And really, to be very candid, someone asked me last week, and someone else who had written a book in this last year about something, and he was
Mm.
saying, do you ever feel a disconnect between what the thing that we're writing, but then how true or not true that is, kind of in our own lives? But when we moved here for both of us, after a couple months, we just really noticed, our stress levels in our bodies have been higher than usual. No matter how hard we did all the things that we knew
Oh,
to
yes.
care for our bodies, it just, the move did bring about stress. And it was very humbling to see, like, okay, of course, through a massive move, stress is going
Hmm.
to go higher.
Yeah.
And what does it look like to kind of get reacquainted with these practices that
Okay.
had worked really well in our life, the way life had been going? But this was a big disruption to our regular life.
Very big and a
Yeah.
grand test of your work, which I think is
Hmm.
good. That's a
Oh,
positive,
yeah.
right?
I had
It's
to
like,
practice what I preach and
yeah,
learn new ways to explore and play with, continuing to be a student of that, that lifelong learning.
lifelong,
Yeah.
lifelong. Oh my gosh, like I told you before we started, I really started this at age 28 in a nervous breakdown, and it's like I'm 65 and it's so difficult.
Yeah.
So you have this huge move. Please tell everyone what you're studying because I find it intriguing.
Mhm.
Not only did you do two
Mhm.
masters side by side, so you are really a lover of learning.
Yes, I
Who puts
am.
themselves through that? I understand. So you decide University of St. Andrews has what you want. What is that program?
Yeah, so I wanted to do a UK-based PhD. and I wanted to do something interdisciplinary. So I wanted to be somewhere that would support me bringing together really backgrounds from both of my master's degrees. So being a clinical mental health counselor, also having a second degree in biblical studies, where I was not only working with biblical languages, but theology, church history, things like that. And so, what I'm getting to do here is I'm getting to bring in conversation with each other ancient contemplative practices, so
Ooh.
early Christian contemplative practices, and present day mindfulness interventions, and just wanting to have a really
Mm.
informed, critically engaged conversation that requires slowing down, right? To not
Yes.
haphazardly integrate them,
Mm-mm.
but to really slow down and chew on, what does this look like? What is an ethically responsible way to do this? What is a theologically responsible way to do this? And
Mm-hmm.
so much of what I do in my clinical work and in retreats and things like that, this is what I'm doing. And so for me, there's this sense of when I really think this is what my life's work is going to be, to slow down for a couple years and really critically engage that, really step into what does this look like? And go way back to Desert Fathers, you know, from a very long time ago, and
Yeah.
read those works. And yeah, so it's for me, it's really fun. It's things I would like to do, even if I wasn't doing a PhD.
Yes.
And just kind of, icing on the cake and the cherry on top to move to Scotland and St. Andrews to get to work on it.
At the end of
Mhm.
this journey, which probably is, I don't know how long. How long do they give you in the UK?
So they give you 3 years to write your
Oh,
dissertation.
oh,
And so you come in and they expect you to start dissertation day one. So your first 6 months, you have to write a 10 to 12,000 word chapter. And if they don't deem it doctoral level research, they say you
but
can't do a PhD. You have to do a master's instead. So
wow.
the first 6 months were a bit
Wow.
stressful getting through that, but I got through it. And
Good girl. And they approved
yeah,
it.
so it might be, yeah, and it might be 4 years. A lot of people
Mhm.
do extend to four. It just kind of depends on what your life balance looks like
Sure.
and what a sustainable pace, which for
Yes,
each person is a bit different.
it is. Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm actually trying to decide, there's a couple directions I could go of where I most want to narrow, and that's what I'm deciding right now. So you'll have to wait and see.
Oh, God, you hanging on thread. I love it. I just
Yeah.
want to read this work because I know the dissertation will become a book. I just know it will.
Yeah.
So I'll be patient. I will take care of my heart so I live a long time and I can read it and have you back. So there were two main thoughts that came out initially. So one is very practical. Why the UK? Why did you want to do your PhD program there? I think that's
Mhm.
very fascinating for me. I'm very curious about it, obviously. And we have a lot of learners that probably will want to know
Mhm.
why the UK? Why not here in the States?
Yeah. So, a couple reasons. One of them was very practical in terms of I had done two very rigorous master's degrees, which I loved. But I also know from all the therapeutic work I've been doing, not just as the therapist, as the professional, but
Mhm.
as a person,
Yes.
right? Of really doing this
Yes.
work of slowing down, noticing what increases my stress. How do I carry that stress? And knowing if I was going to step into a program that was going to span something like 7 years,
7 to 10, right? Yeah.
yeah, could
Hmm.
I do that?
Could.
Yes.
Hmm.
But will I give that much of myself to it? And the answer was just no, that
It's
I'm
huge.
not willing to, the toll that that will take. And that's not the answer for everyone, right? But that
Correct.
was the answer for me, especially
Hmm.
after what my husband and I had walked through. I have several autoimmune diseases and disorders that
Oh boy.
stress just has a really big impact on my body. So I really have to selectively pick and choose where I give that
Goodness.
energy.
Hmm.
So that was one thing that if you can be ready to go into dissertation, the UK is a great place for that because you get to go right in. I had great professors in my grad
Hmm.
program who prepared me well to be able to do
Wow.
that. And so I'm very grateful for them and for what they did. They went above and beyond outside of normal coursework
Oh,
to do that. And
lovely.
the second thing, honestly, and this is really more that's kind of the head level answer.
Hmm.
The, doing functional answer, the heart level answer is I had lived in the Netherlands when I was
Yes.
younger.
Yes.
And for me, when I left that place, I was heartbroken
Oh,
that
you
I
can
will.
feel it on the pages, Heartlifters, when you read it. I mean, I'm so weepy. I'm right on the cusp of just weeping because I was like, my daughter lives
Mhm.
in Belgium and I
Mm,
love Europe,
mhm.
always have, want to be
Yeah.
Italian. Don't know what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And it
Leaving in those
just,
places is heart-wrenching.
yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
why it was for you.
Oh, yes. I mean, that was a place for me. The only way I can describe it is it's where I fully came alive.
You
It
were
in so many
14. You
different
lived
ways.
14 years there?
So not 14 years, but I left at 14.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just,
Ooh.
for me, it was a place of spiritual awakening. It was a place
Mm.
of like holistic awakening. And
Mm.
to leave, it was the first time that a move really felt like leaving home in a
Ooh.
way that it's hard for me to put to words.
Hmm.
And it just felt like this plant being ripped out of this place where these roots had like found their soil,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a say in it, right?
You did not. No autonomy.
And yeah, yeah. And in the same way that I didn't have a say when we moved there, and it was one of the greatest things, that ever happened in my life or for my family. I mean, we treasured our time there.
Oh.
And I really made this inner vow that I would go back,
Hmm.
right? And over again, I thought I'll go back for college, but then I wanted a traditional American university
Okay.
experience. And I thought,
Okay.
well, I'll go back after that. And it was all these things kept happening where I kept
Yes.
not going back.
Yes. Dang it. Right.
So for me, there was this sense of really making good on that inner vow, on that
Love
inner
that.
knowing, that
An
getting to
inner
go
knowing.
home in a
Love.
way.
Yes,
Yeah.
AC. Ooh. Okay. Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. Oh,
That inner knowing.
yeah.
I'm sorry if I interrupted. Did you finish?
Mm. No, you're good. I mean, that's really it. It just, there was this sense of this is a beautiful opportunity to go back to this corner of the world, obviously a different country, different culture. But this
Mhm.
corner of the world, it's like my body knows that I'm
Yes.
just this tiny little flight away from the Netherlands. And we started there when we moved here. We went there for 10 days
Oh, yeah.
and I got to take my husband where I used to live and walk in these fields that are just the most sacred place in the world to me. And anchoring there before coming up here
Gives me chills
was
everywhere.
a
I'm so
gift.
happy for you.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. Yeah.
Mm.
And it's really important to God. It really is. He writes so
Mm.
much, and the psalmist write, David write. There's just so much about land and,
Yes.
strategic placement. Genesis 12,
Mhm.
Abraham, I'm going to send you to a place. If you don't, you're not going to know. So I think it is very much a part of God's heart. And when I was telling my husband last night, I was reading again, and he goes, "What are you reading?" And I'm like, "I'm reading ACC." I didn't know how to say your last name at the time, Disciples book, but it's She Moved. They just recently moved back, and da da da. And he's like, he knows how much I want to move. I really want to move. I've got the itch. And he's like, "We really need to lean into that." I was like,
Mm.
so the second part that really came out, and I have your beautiful essay that you wrote here. You'll see it on YouTube, guys,
Oh.
on autonomy or lack thereof, reflections on the perfect conditions of spiritual harm, which is on your Substack, all parts sacred. You
Mhm.
must become a follower of AC Substack. It is rich, and I have a Substack, and I don't subscribe to many, but I love yours, and
Thank
it
you.
it is that question that, like, when you asked Elijah, or even before you asked him, I felt it in your heart, like, could this be all about me? Is that fair?
Mhm.
Like, could this
Mhm.
be all of, like, that is a question I am wrestling with right now at age 65. Like, could something be all about me?
Mm.
Well, I have been well trained.
Yes.
I mean, I go way back, way before you weren't even born, and it was even, it was just, that's what I was reared in after I
Yeah.
became a follower at age 21. is that to me is the core of autonomy. Could something be about me?
Mm,
Is that
yeah.
fair? Am I deciphering that right? And then for Elijah to say, yeah, to support you, I can't
Mm,
even fathom. Like, it's just not some part of my age group, my generation's.
mm,
I have a very awesome husband who was way ahead of the game as far as a yes man. He was never a yes man, which made me not a yes
mhm,
woman, even though I was a
mhm.
yes woman. He would always say, no, 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 no. So,
Mm,
talk to me a little bit about autonomy
yeah.
and about this article, particularly this essay.
Mhm.
How is that okay if I ask you that?
Oh,
Because
yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't think it's in the book as much.
Mm-mm.
I didn't catch that. But I feel like it's super important because it to me it's part of my slowing down. That
Mm,
makes any
mhm.
sense.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Because I feel a compulsion still, a pressure
Mm,
to
mhm,
help the voice of women be heard.
mhm.
And I can't slow that down until I really completely heal spiritual harm and spiritual trauma in my life, I think. I think what you're talking about is multi-layered.
Yes, yes. And so I will say that it's something I'm very much chewing on and processing. And
Yes,
that's where
sure.
when I put that essay on there, almost all of it I wrote last October.
Uh-huh.
And I've been I finished the book, I've been working on my PhD, I was preparing for the retreats.
Jeez.
So, it's something that just kind of sat on a shelf for a bit, even though I did want to return to it. And there was something recently that happened that for me, it was just this other example of people not respecting autonomy of adults in a faith space and just being like, this is bonkers to me that this is so
Bonkers.
normal. Most people don't even think about it. And it brought me back to that article that I wanted to write and just thought, I want to share this now. It's a little more raw than I might like. I know that it's not as fine-tuned as I might want, but
Mhm.
I'm still chewing on it and just being authentic of this is where I am in the
It's authentic.
process.
And I'm telling you, I don't want any more crap. I'm sorry, I'm just say the word. I could really say the bad word, but I won't. It's just I've got chills. I'm just constantly having chills with your work because it's so authentic.
Thank
It
you.
is raw. And if we don't put raw, if we keep guarding that, I'm
Mm,
still guarding it because I want to be
hmm
ethical. I want to be,
hmm
polite, I guess. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
reading a book, The Courage to be Disliked. So what does that say about me? It's such a good book on, having the willingness to be a Deborah, a woman with a
hmm
voice that's not afraid.
hmm hmm
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's raw and that's why it spoke to my heart.
Mm,
So you wrote it and what you're
hmm
saying in there, and I love Hillary McBride. You reference her in the beginning.
hmm
The crux of the matter is, let me just read this. Do you mind if I read this
Oh, it's completely fine. Yeah.
little piece? Let's see here. One of the most fun foundational stages of development in this model. Oh, I didn't. Which model are we talking about? The
Eric
model.
Erickson.
Yeah, Eric Erickson, human development. It includes a task of navigating between shame and autonomy. In its most simple form, you can think of this as a child who is about 2 or 3 year olds. I have two 3 year old, almost a 3 year old, two 3 year old boy and girl, granddaughter, grandson.
Mm,
And I'm seeing it in action, like the next
hmm
generation where my children are doing a better job of developing attachment, secure attachment, and I'm
hmm
developing emotional intelligence. It's so bonkers to watch my children doing this. And I'm
hmm
so grateful. So grateful. So, in its most simple form, you can think of this as a child who's about 2 or 3 years old, starting to pick out the clothing they like to wear, learning to use the toilet, or reaching for the kinds of toys they most enjoy playing with. And it's the elements of control and will that seem most threatening to Christians here. Fearful that if we allow ourselves to embrace and assert our own will or control, we're making an either or choice, not leaving room to ultimately yield to God's will. But what if, this is your question, if this either or mindset that shames autonomy out of us in church space is the very thing that grows narcissistic systems? Thank you.
Mm,
You know, yes. So why is autonomy such a problem
mm.
within faith journey? Uh, it certainly wasn't a problem for Jesus. That's all he did.
Yeah.
All he did was help people become autonomous
Uh-huh.
and then
Yeah.
help them come together and be a group. It's like,
Yes.
it's nothing new.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's really fascinating. And even what you were saying initially of kind of this question of, is this a matter of, can it be all about me?
Mhm.
And like I think what's so sad and unfortunate is the ways that autonomy, even if we're not using the word autonomy,
Mhm.
the way that that's viewed in faith spaces, it just gets put in kind of this black and white either or of
Yes.
like you're being selfish or you're
Mhm.
making it about you or you're,
Yes.
it's almost like there's not this room for, well, maybe it's not necessarily that I'm making it all about me. Maybe I'm just making a decision right now. And
Yes.
maybe I'm which we do all day long, right? So it's kind of funny
Correct.
where it's like we have to make decisions, we have to make choices, right? But
Mhm.
then there are so many spaces where that gets questioned, right? It gets questioned of, well, are you following God's will? Are you
Yes.
doing what God would most want? Are
Mhm.
you doing what? And I of course don't want to say this giving license to
Oh,
harm people or to
oh,
do things
no.
that, that's not
We're
at all what I'm
very
saying.
healthy here. We are grounded women in the faith.
Hmm.
I know that for a fact. We
Hmm.
are not trying to create a ruckus in all the wrong ways, trying to
Yeah.
create a ruckus in all the right ways.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
but what you even said was, even in my private practice, when I would, and because I definitely worked with mostly Christian women, seasoned Christian women,
Hmm.
30, 40
Hmm.
years in the faith, seasoned,
Yeah.
that are the pillars of the churches I know they're in, and yet
Hmm.
under the surface. So when I would even say the word autonomy, they were like, I'd have no idea what that word means.
Yeah.
To this day, I can still
Hmm.
say it, and they're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So I just made it a huge emphasis to speak that word. Like,
Hmm.
I didn't know what it meant either. So it's
Hmm.
like, let's understand what autonomy means. Can you
Yeah.
explain that in your beautiful way that you explain that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think autonomy, we just most simply think about it in terms of as we navigate life, right? Kind of we're walking through life, we're navigating life, and we're making decisions in the same way that a young child might learn, okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna put this clothing on. I like this toy, so I'm gonna play with this toy. Or, I'm learning how to use the bathroom and take care of myself in that way, be
Yes.
autonomous in that way. And I think what's so sad is when we're young, and this is why thinking about it when we're young is helpful. What so often happens is when we use our autonomy in ways that adults like, they
Yeah.
encourage that autonomy, right? Be autonomous, be independent, do the things that make my life easier.
Oh,
But when we
yes.
do things that use our autonomy and people don't like it, right? Our
That's
caregivers,
correct.
our adults don't like it, and it's a problem then,
Hmm.
right? There's this sense of, well, you're not as easily controllable, right? Depending on how
The
you're
bottom
your
line,
own autonomous being.
correct, is control, right?
Mhm.
The way
Yeah.
I like to explain it, tell me, please, correct me. This is where I pound my table. I can think for myself.
Mhm. Yeah.
I can think for myself
Hmm.
and I can speak for myself.
Hmm.
Because in my theological standpoint, Christ says we're one.
Hmm.
So if I'm a follower of Christ and I'm listening to him,
Hmm.
I'm following his words. I'm doing my very best to discern imperfectly as I will. You can't extract Christ in me. Like it, we're one.
Hmm.
Christ is in me.
I love how you said that.
I just think I can't. Like if I say I'm choosing this, I'm choosing it because God and I are choosing it. or
Mhm.
because the Spirit is leading me, or because Jesus is telling me. I can't take the Trinity out of my being.
Mhm. Mm.
That's at least how I have qualified it in my brain. It's like I
Mhm.
really don't think I can make a decision without it being led by Christ or led by God,
Mhm.
because I've been
Mhm.
walking with him a very long time and he's just in me. Therefore, I can't be selfish. I mean, I'm just talking out loud. Certainly I
Mhm.
can be, but if I'm yielding, hungering, thirsting, following,
Mhm.
he's going to check me.
Mhm.
He'll check me. Or those closest to me will check me.
Mhm.
Those that are also walking beside me.
Mhm.
So I feel deeply, AC, that is such a critical aspect of being able to slow down.
Mm. Mhm.
Because if I can't think for myself and I can't talk for myself, and if I can't make wise decisions by myself, how in the heck am I ever going to slow down? Because I'm going to be driven
Yeah.
by everyone telling me what I need to be doing.
Yes. Yes. And I think what's so fun for me, even listening to you and this conversation here, where you said, this isn't necessarily explicitly in the book, I'm realizing how much that autonomy piece really is implicitly in the book, even if I'm not making it explicit, right? This
Correct.
sense of we have this muscle memory inside that kind of moves us through life. And so much of the
Yeah.
book is the sense of, okay, let's slow down and tap into that muscle memory, really, so that we are making these informed decisions where we're giving consent basically to how we want to move through our days, how we want to live our lives, how we want to be connected to our bodies, inviting God to tend to the depths of our soul. And in doing that, all of that is autonomy, right? We do
It
that out
is.
of making autonomous decisions
Yes.
and connecting with our autonomy rather than just being kind of coasted through life on this autopilot that we
Yeah.
might not even want to choose, but is just what's happening.
Because you talk so much about autopilot.
Hmm.
And it's, I mean, we do move through our days on autopilot. And you have
Hmm.
explained implicit and explicit memory, which is so
Hmm.
important to this conversation. And
Hmm.
so much of our life is lived from that implicit memory, right? The implicit,
Yeah.
that we have learned, those rutted ridges in our neural pathways that
Hmm.
childhood has created in us. So I do a lot
Hmm.
of work with memory reconsolidation with clients. I'm trauma
Hmm.
trained, trauma informed
Hmm.
like you. I too know the challenge of then that neuroplasticity, right? The work of
Yeah.
rewiring is very difficult. You bring,
Hmm.
though, to this in this book a deeper conversation that I have seen in others. Page 11 for sure, I'm going to read. In fact, AC writes, 80% of communication through our vagus nerve. I have not known that fact. How do I not know 80% of communication is through our vagus nerve? Tell us what our vagus nerve is real quick, and then you're just going to have to read about the rest because I said we're going to stay very efficient here, and why that's so important to the core of slowing down.
Yeah. So our vagus nerve is one of our cranial nerves. So we have different pairs of cranial nerves. And so that pair of our cranial nerve, it actually goes the whole way from our brainstem all the way down into our abdomen. And so that's why vagus is from the Latin word for wandering, because it kind of wanders down. And so that thing that I kind of nerd out about a little bit in the book, just to frame where we're going, is that 80% of communication through this vagus nerve goes from the body to the brain rather than the brain to the body. And the reason this is important is our vagus nerve has to do with our autonomic nervous system. So that's what regulates our breathing, our heart rate, our blood pressure, these things that literally keep us alive and have
Yes.
to do with how safe do we feel? How stressed do we feel?
Mm.
Are we overwhelmed? Are we going into shutdown? Can we rest? Can we take a deep breath? How connected do we feel to other people? All of these things that have to do with so much of life. And so, if we're not working with that flow of communication, that with this significant cranial nerve, 80% of that communication going from the body to the brain. If we're not working with that flow of how we're created,
Yeah.
we're likely to end up feeling pretty frustrated and stuck and like we're working against our own self. And that's where I've
Mhm.
spent a lot of my life, right? So I don't write this from a place that's
Yeah.
detached, that just kind of does this with clients. I write this from a place of this is something that I have battled through
Yeah.
for years. And
You,
that with the
yeah.
help of some really wise women and
Mm.
mentors, and they're, referenced in the book,
Hmm.
God has just stitched together this really beautiful, holistic, formative journey that I know
Mm.
I'm only starting, right? It's not like I've
Yeah.
been through it and I wrote about it,
Yeah.
but things that have been profound enough in the first years of that journey that I
Hmm.
wanted to share these sacred spaces where,
Hmm.
that nerdy fact about our nervous system and this cranial nerve, that doesn't have to be detached
No.
from the depths of our soul,
No.
from, really deep healing work. And like, what does
Yes.
it look like to find those intersections
Hmm.
of what's going on with my body beneath the awareness, of like my
Hmm.
thinking brain? And what does it look like to connect with God in those spaces?
I don't know. We need you. I need you. Yeah. Because if you do avoid paying attention to it, you will end up in the ER. You just will.
Mm.
You will end up with a heart problem, whether it's metaphorical or literal or both.
Mm.
And I'm just saying it because I want you to help us understand even more. How do we, I mean, obviously, we will read your book with highlighter in hand and take it apart. I am not letting go of this book until I get it, especially chapter 9, tending to what's been forgotten. We
Mm.
may not get there in this conversation, but I'll get there and add some things later. How do I make that shift? Number one, I wrote down, we have to understand we're an embodied being. You go into such depths to help us understand what does it completely mean to embrace my embodied beingness.
Mm. Yeah, I think initially it's uncomfortable when we're not used to it. I just want to name that.
It's so
Initially,
awful. I'm
yeah, it
sorry.
feels, and that's the hard thing, right?
Yes.
Is where it's like we have been living disconnected from our bodies generally for a reason. And so
Hmm.
that's where it can be really hard, where it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be connected in this way.
I don't want to
This
feel
doesn't
that.
feel good. Yeah.
This, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Even just slowing down. Like, I don't want to slow down and have time to think the thoughts I don't want to think and feel the things I don't want to feel.
No,
And
I'm
that's
going to
where,
keep busy.
yeah. Yeah. So the vision is definitely on the long game there. I think that's something
It
that
is a
really
long
needs to
game.
be named, right?
Yes,
And that
ma'am.
it's a relationship, like our
Yes.
relationship with our bodies, with ourselves. I love how Hillary McBride will just so simply say, it's not just that we have a body, we are our body,
Ooh.
right? And so it's not just a relationship with our body, it's a relationship with ourselves. And
Mhm.
again, that can feel uncomfortable, right? There can be these
Mhm.
Christian messages of, is that selfish? Is that self-focused? And when we frame it as we, like any other person, are a creation created by God, created in God's image, as some of my favorite Hebrew scholars would say, as God's image, not just bearing God's image, but as God's image,
Yes. He
God's
breathed
representational presence.
into us. Ah, we
Yeah.
live with his breath. I mean, everything about him is in us. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's like we don't get to decide,
Mm.
right? If there's this inherent dignity and value there to embrace holistically. It's like that's already been determined. So I think in the day to day, in your question, I think initially it's like fostering this relationship. And a metaphor I once used with
Oh,
someone that I think is so helpful, especially if you like cats,
okay.
is if you bring two cats into the same space together and they don't know each other yet, the way that you're like the recommended way to do that is to have them in separate parts of the house for like
Ah,
a while. I think
Oh,
it's for weeks even. So they can smell each other, they can hear each other, but they don't actually see or interact for a very long time. And it's this very slow process, this weeks long process, sometimes even months long process.
wow.
They get accustomed to knowing, like, okay, they're there, but we're not interacting. And it moves so slowly to where, okay,
Wow.
then maybe they might be in a room closer. They can smell each other more, hear each other more. Then
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're on separate sides of the room, and kind of thinking about that with like our body and different parts of us, of moving that slowly,
Oh,
right?
this
Knowing
is a
like,
good word. Lean in. This, I mean, AC, this
yeah,
is it.
thank you.
Say
Yeah,
it
it takes
again.
time. It takes
Slow.
time. Yeah. And honoring that there's reason it takes a long time. There's reason that
That's
this is
sacred.
risky and scary and vulnerable. Like honoring that vulnerability. Yes.
So the flow here, in summary, is to understand the power of being embodied, being an embodied being,
Hmm.
and then to understand that it's really a bottom up approach. So,
Yes.
how do we then make that shift to listen to the signals coming from bottom up or,
Mm-hmm.
gut up? How do we do that? Is there some simple ways that you are giving us in the book? Maybe some simple ways to start. Go slow,
Yes.
go slow.
Yes. Go slow. Create that space with slowing down. Curiosity is a core ingredient, right? Because it's so easy that we come to ourselves with frustration, with shame, with impatience. And something, I wish I could remember who I first heard say this, so that this is not original to me, but in a training many years ago,
Mm,
I heard someone say, when slowing down and just noticing things for the first time, really basically trying to encourage people, what does it look like to get curious when we don't even know what
mhm,
it means to get curious, especially with our own selves or other people,
mhm.
to just have this phrase of, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so if we don't know how to not respond with a judgment, just responding with, oh, that's interesting.
That's
You
so
know,
interesting. I'm so curious.
yeah. Yeah. And even if it doesn't feel authentic, just kind of playing with
Yes.
that of like, what would it be like to say right now, oh, that's interesting,
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you laugh at yourself initially because you're just like, this is not my muscle memory response. This is so far.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to pass by something so important that you keep bringing us to attune to is our muscle memory. And so our
Mm,
muscle
mhm,
memory is just what we have learned to do. And it's that
mhm.
implicit. It's just, we
Yes.
just do it without even thinking. So that's why when
Yeah.
we learn a new process or practice, because I call
Mm,
this book a spiritual practice.
yeah.
It is learning to live my life in pace with the spirit is a spiritual practice. So it's going to
Mhm,
feel uncomfortable. It's going to make me come out of my skin, is what I say in disembodying. I'm going
mm,
to come
mhm,
out of my skin. I used to say it all the time and I didn't understand what it meant. And as a dancer my whole life, and I know you're a dancer, I mean, I danced I still would and do
mhm,
swirl and twirl and move my
mhm,
body. I felt embodied when I moved, but then when I was off
mhm,
stage, I became disembodied again. So those
mhm,
words that we're throwing around, being embodied means fully occupying your
mhm,
being. You can feel yourself in your
mhm.
body.
Yes.
I
Yes. And
feel
back
it.
to the autopilot thing
Hmm.
of the muscle memory that runs when we're on autopilot. I think it's exactly what you're saying, where we feel and we're connected to that muscle memory. So rather than it going
Hmm.
on autopilot and we're disconnected from it, we're actually tuning in with
Yeah.
what's happening down there.
Yeah.
What's happening in this muscle memory right now?
Right. Why is my left hand tingling or my left foot tingling or why is
Hmm.
that's how and so I always start by just come home, Janelle. Like put
Yeah.
my hand on my heart a lot lately, but more
Mm-hmm.
it's just I can be in a grocery line, a doctor's office, in a conversation, and I'll just do this and go, that's my sign for Janelle to come home.
Yeah.
Come home. It's safe in here. It is safe now. And
Mm-hmm.
I like being in my home now. I feel
Hmm.
good in my home.
Yeah.
And that's the most important home I'll ever have is inside of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's critical.
Mm-hmm.
So my wise new friend, AC, we have not gotten very far, but my eye is on the clock. I have to have you talk to us about really, I think it's like the thesis of your book, 1314, on this woven together, this beautiful
Mm-hmm.
nuclei of DNA that it looks like in the illustration on page 14. I mean, look
Yeah.
at my book. It's just so good. May you please help us understand these strands that
Yeah.
we are to weave into the fabric of our being
Mm-hmm.
in a very slow process. You have helped me recover
Mm-hmm.
my understanding of gracing myself to be slow.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like my life depends on it. I don't feel,
Mm-hmm.
I know my life depends on it right now. If I don't get this lesson, it's not going to be good. So, woven together, you're talking about the mysterious complexity of our internal world, all of our parts, and you give us these five strands. Is it five or
Mm-hmm.
six?
I think it's five. I think that's right.
It's five. I'll remind you because you wrote this a long time ago and you're already writing other things, deep things, the cognitive strands of our mind. Just give me a quick little overview. So we have a cognitive strand in our mind.
Yeah. So that's, like our thoughts, what we often think of, no pun intended, when we think of like put mind over matter, kind of where we assume like the central core of who we are is, we often put that seat in our mind of it's what I think, it's what I do, it's what I can figure out. It's yeah, the
It's
thinking
all the
part of
thinking.
me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Then the emotional strands of our heart.
Yeah. So the reality is we are deeply feeling people.
Hmm.
And I love how we see in scripture, like Christ was so moved by compassion. The Greek verb there
Yes.
is that his innards, like his entrails, like this
Mm.
visceral move, this embodiment of God's compassion. And,
Yeah.
God's compassion being located. So Exodus 34, Moses, Mount Sinai, God passes before proclaiming, the Lord,
Mm.
compassionate, gracious. We translate this in different ways, but that first word, the
Mhm.
root noun of that Hebrew word is womb, right? And so it's not just the sense of deep feeling things deeply like compassion, but even the location of that in the body. The Bible Project podcast has a really great episode on this called "The Womb of God?"
Okay.
Question mark.
I will put it out.
Um,
Yes.
yeah.
WOMB, just in case you're hearing
Yes.
wound. It's womb.
Yeah. Oh, yes, yes. Womb. Yes, womb.
Yes.
But yeah, so not just that we feel, but that is intricately connected in
Mm.
us. Yes.
It's our gut. Yeah. The somatic strands of our body. Somatic is a new word to all of us. Not in this podcast, we're really trying to help
Mhm.
our come into a somatic understanding. Okay, so the somatic strands of our
Mhm.
body.
Yes. So soma coming from the Greek for body. So this sense of we are not, as much as we try to separate who we are from our body, that's just not how we're created.
I know.
And whether it's the body keeps the score,
Mm.
whether it's Hillary McBride's The Wisdom of Your Body, like research is showing us
Oh yeah.
what's always been true about how we were created, what's reflected in the psalmist's cries of how
So
they are intersecting all these strands in this
they are.
ancient poetry that's been preserved as sacred scripture.
I know.
And we're just now kind of catching up
It's
to
so
something we've
incredible.
forgotten.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Or chosen to forget.
Yeah. Or been told to
Or
forget.
been told. That's probably more accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. New day. The fourth, the spiritual strands of our soul. You talk a lot about tending to the depths of our soul. So, what would that
Yeah.
mean? You do have a whole podcast. I'm going to put your beautiful podcast out if you want to know
Mm.
what is a soul. But in this, what we're talking about today, the spiritual strands of our soul that are woven into this beautiful new fabric that we're trying to live.
Yeah. Yeah. So there I'm looking at our relationship with God, these spaces of not just us coming before the holy, but this sense of the the sacredness that is
Yeah.
woven in us, that there is, again, in the way that we can't disconnect ourselves from our body, we can't disconnect ourselves from being created in God's image and God
No,
living in
no,
us. Yeah. It's just that the threads, it is already all woven together.
it is. John 17, it's Ephesians 1,
Mm,
it's Psalm 139. You cannot deny.
mm,
You cannot separate. I mean, Romans 8, right? We are,
mhm,
Christ is living in us. I really want that to be a fresh word for today,
mm.
that nothing can separate, nothing can separate us from that deep love. Last strand is the narrative strands of our story.
Yeah.
That's the latter part of the book, which is,
I'll just briefly say, in a way that's puzzling, no matter how old we are the same person who was once 1 day old and 1 year
I
old and 10 years old. And we carry those versions of ourselves. Like there's no separating
know,
that where, yes, we are a different age. Yes, we are in a different developmental stage,
no,
but we are the same person.
we
And
are.
we carry what we have lived through
Hmm.
with us. And so again, it's just these things that they are already woven together and connected. And it's just tracing those strands that
Yeah.
are intact and in a way getting comfortable because initially it can feel uncomfortable. And it's like, what does it feel like
Mhm.
to get comfortable with like, oh yeah, this is woven together. Oh
Oh,
yeah, all this is here. And
yeah.
it can feel, again, it can feel like a lot. It sometimes doesn't feel safe initially. That's why the book
No.
goes so slow to cultivate
Hmm.
as much safety, to respect
Yes.
autonomy of you go at your own pace. You only do what feels safe to you right now.
Hmm.
And you get to determine that,
Yes.
which is big.
Yes. Our beautiful Andy Colber was on, and she talked a lot about titration, which, all
Mm-hmm.
these words are really big words, but
Mm-hmm.
I love how God has brought all of these beautiful souls to write different books that have different pieces at different times. And this, you're helping, the titration is the way to slowly come into the different parts of ourselves. Okay, I'm not quite ready for that yet. To be patient with our friends and our family, with me, with my adult children, with my grandchildren, to go, oh, maybe today's not the day. Being very aware of timing in our relationships as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
think this is such a beautiful picture that you're painting for us to also extend outward once we have done the work ourselves. Not everybody's ready to hear the truth about
Mm-hmm.
themselves right now. You have to be really
Mm-hmm.
aware of timing. And so I think going
Yeah.
slow is a really good word in relationships as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you write, a tapestry is one unified entity with many different strands that are all connected together, even though this can't clearly be seen on the surface. In one corner of a tapestry, a specific thread or a combination of two or three threads might be most visible. I love that you write this because it was in Scotland at Stirling Castle when I was there in 2005. That's a little ways out from St. Andrews, but
Mm-hmm.
they were um, restoring the tapestries from the castle. And I've written about that. So Heartlifters, I will put that on so you can read about that. And they work from the back.
Mm-hmm.
It just was awe-inspiring. They can't even see
Mm-hmm.
what they're trying. They have a
Yeah.
pattern over here, but then they work from the
Mm-hmm.
back.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
what? So they're just following specifically and strategically the numbers on those grids that are on their pattern. Well, isn't that
Mm-hmm.
how the Father works with us?
Mm.
Oh my goodness. AC, I have to let you go, but I would like to just ask one final, if you would give us one final parting. Part three is tending to the depths of our soul, tending to what's
Yes.
been forgotten. Where
Mm.
do we begin there? Where do we begin to tend to what's
Mm.
been forgotten? You've already given us the beautiful background and principles and the idea of slow, slow. So, what's a good place to start today? Buy your book. I've tend to the end of each chapter that you give us, and even on the insides of the chapters, you give us time to stop and slow down.
Mhm.
Where would you like us to start today?
Yeah. I think listening in.
Mm.
I think it's a pretty rare thing that we listen to what's happening inside. And again, for good reason, because it can sometimes feel overwhelming. And so that word titration that you used earlier, of, maybe we start by, I have 20 seconds that I can tolerate listening in today, or I have 10 seconds I can
Yes.
tolerate listening in today. That's all I can really handle or
Mhm.
manage. And starting there, knowing
Yeah.
that's okay.
Mhm.
And seeing, okay, maybe tomorrow or the next day, maybe I listen for 30 seconds. Maybe I go down to 5 seconds.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
but
Create the
just
space.
fostering that relationship of just listening in. And I think sometimes being honest with ourselves, with our body, with all the parts within of, I don't know how to do this yet. I
Yes.
don't know what this is going to look like. This is scary,
Mhm.
and just being right where we are. If
Mhm.
that's our starting point,
Yep.
starting there
I love it.
and
That's perfect.
going and growing from that place.
Yeah. So, in the ancient contemplatives that you're studying, is there some thread there that you're already beginning to see woven through all the different people that you're studying, the desert monks? Anything?
So, so I'm focusing on one main person, John Cassian, and something that I've
Oh,
really enjoyed is there's a lot of talk around the recesses of the heart, the recesses of the soul, the recesses of the mind, really like this, the depths, right? And this wanting to go into those depths while they are physically, so that's internally, but then physically and externally, they're going to these recesses of the desert and these depths of
yes,
the desert. And I think
physically.
there's something, really beautiful about that. For me, that resonates really deeply of I love externally doing that, right? And for me,
Yeah.
that matches that internal work, that those things fit
Hmm.
for me. And those are places where God meets me and spaces of sweetness and that are sacred. And so that's something I've specifically enjoyed.
So, I'm hearing you say be strategic in getting away,
Yeah.
movement away from the ordinary rush and all of that, like
The
taking
screens, our
the
phones, our
screens.
emails,
Yeah,
the
taking
busyness.
a retreat if you can, one of yours, I would love. Yeah, making movement away, even if it might be for a great length of time.
Yeah.
Now I'm talking, I know people have children and all of those things, but even making it a part of your family value, perhaps for the mother and the father, to give one another a time away every year, perhaps, or maybe every 6 months, to disconnect from mothering, wiffery, husbandry, all of the things. Okay, I love that. So that's something different that I've not challenged my Heartlifters with or myself, to put that on the calendar, that to get away by yourself. Is that what you're saying?
And I would also say sometimes what our life has margin for is stepping outside and putting our feet in the grass and looking at the sky for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And just stepping away from our screens, the busyness, when it's safe and okay for everyone in the house for us to do that. Because, maybe getting childcare is just not a thing that's going to happen for a night or a weekend or whatever it is. And so seeing, okay, what is it like to do that physical action of kind of stepping away from my mountain to-do list?
Yes.
And in the space where what I have margin for, taking one of those exhales.
I love it.
And being.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you, AC. From
thank you for
the depths,
having me.
the recesses of my heart.